Yeah, this is breakfast.
And Pam and David.
Hi, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Hi.
Good morning.
I'm gonna apologize to start with. Daisy woke up with a toothache, and the only time the dentist can get her in is at 11. So I'm here to say good morning, and then I'm gonna duck out and leave poor Carol here by herself. How's everybody else?
Good.
Pretty good.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
Late. I'm eating my breakfast.
Oh, that's fine. What's this gal's name that's out here at the desk?
Lauren.
And does she would be able to turn this off?
Yeah, she'll turn it off and she'll upload it to YouTube, and she's
Okay.
a miracle. She's such a gift.
Do you know what, if people need to bring food for that thing, for the wake, the thing on Saturday?
I do not think so. I know Mary's bringing all the drinks in right
Mary.
now as we're speaking.
Mary George?
Mary George is bringing.
She's bringing in her own refreshments.
Yes,
That doesn't seem right.
but Leslie, I'll ask to be sure, and if we are meant to bring something, then I'll let you know.
Well, the sign-up sheet only says for help for setup and tear down. It doesn't. But
I
it doesn't.
think that's what, this is Pam. I think that's right, just for the setup and the tear down. I think she's ordering food from Gatto's. But you can double check on that. I think she's having food catered in that will serve.
That was my impression too. It's just the
Yeah.
moving the tables around or cleaning up the kitchen after it's over was my impression. But if it's different, Leslie, I'll let you know.
And what
Okay,
time is
right.
that?
Hey, good luck with the toothache. Good luck with the toothache.
Who has
Oh,
a
it's not-
toothache?
Oh, I'm leaving here. I feel
Daisy.
terrible. Daisy had a dentist appointment at 11 because she woke up with a toothache.
Oh my gosh.
Well, it's not that unusual. Pam, I think she probably paid for Alan Heath to have a summer home.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Yeah. I only say that because I just had, was in the dentist chair for 4 hours last Friday, so I feel her pain.
4 hours.
Yeah.
4 hours.
Yeah, I had it, my tooth cracked, then I needed the root canal. And then while I was there, she put, oh, it just was very involved. Nevertheless, I'm better today. Thank you for asking. And I will pray for Daisy.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you. It says the memorial is at 4 p.m. on Saturday.
So the
Yeah.
setup would be what, 3 o'clock or?
Probably.
Probably, okay.
Oh, it's also the ordination of Barnabas.
Right.
Yeah, that's nice.
Here?
No. What does it say? Oh, that's great. How is everybody today?
We're fine.
Morning.
Morning.
Ann, how are you?
I'm doing great. My family's great.
Oh, good. Saki's doing better.
He sure is. Thanks for asking.
Oh, good.
I'm sorry that I came in late, but I missed a little part about Daisy. She had some dental work. Is she okay?
Oh, she just woke up with a toothache, and the only time the dentist can get her in is at 11. So I'm just here to say good morning and get us started.
Is Greg not here today?
Greg is, no, he's not here. And so poor Carol's going to be left alone.
I don't know, Diane may show up. She's usually here.
She
but
is usually here.
I don't know. Greg is gone, but somebody's over at his house doing something.
We are finally getting his gutters and
Oh.
windows done. They're
Oh.
about 2 years overdue. So
Okay,
we
'cause
owe that to
I saw
Lauren.
that truck in the driveway and the banging going on. I was like, what's going on over at Greg's house? I thought he was out of town.
Yeah, I think he said he was growing plants in the gutters at this
Oh,
point. So
no,
that's
yeah.
Lauren, our office admin, is a miracle. So
Yeah, she
grateful
is.
for her.
Yes.
So I guess we should start with prayer requests. Is there anything anyone would like us to pray for today?
Easy.
We have
Go ahead, please.
Thank you. Well, we put her on my list.
Yeah.
We have a friend, his name is Ray Bellamy, and from our old church. And he actually lives in Kentucky now, but they admitted him into the hospital
Oh,
on Father's Day. And I haven't heard anything about what's going on or anything, but he's had some heart conditions. So, but he's still in the hospital, so we can just pray for him.
And his
Ray
name is
Bellamy.
Greg.
Bellamy.
Ray.
R-A-Y.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Ray.
she said Greg too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then I thought maybe it was Gray, which would be kind of a cool name.
Yeah, yeah.
I had someone, I don't know this little boy, but when my husband was a patient at U of C, you have to pass the entrance of Comer's Children's Hospital,
Mm.
which is a big structure. And on just one of the windows, there was like these homemade poster board that was like written, and it said, "Pray for Hunter." So I don't know Hunter, but all I know is Hunter is a child and he's seriously ill. And I've been praying for him since I saw that poster just stuck on the window of like the 7th floor of the hospital.
Mm. Yeah.
Mm.
If we could pray for our granddaughter Lydia. She's going to have surgery tomorrow. And so if you could just keep her in prayer, and whatever surgery they decide that she needs, she'll probably be in there a couple of days.
You heading out to Colorado Springs, Pam?
We're going for her birthday, which is next Friday. And
Well, she'll
Madeline
be
Mark,
home.
pardon me?
I said, hopefully she'll be home by then.
Yeah, yeah. So if you would keep her in prayer. Surgery's not till noon tomorrow. She just found out. So, and the baby can't eat or drink anything. So, but let's just hope they find something, because she has something called silent aspiration. So that's what I know. And then if you would keep Chris Whitehead in your prayer. She was back in the ER, I believe, on Monday, and she's still fighting symptoms of COVID. Well,
No.
COVID, but maybe other things also. So please, let's keep Chris in our prayers too.
Okay.
Anybody else?
I'd like to raise up my friend Brian from work and his family. They all came down with COVID after coming back from vacation. So they are just so happy right now.
Oh,
It's bad out there. Anyone else? Would anyone like to lead us in prayer? I wrote the list down, so I'm happy to do it, but I'm just as happy to have someone else do it. No, it's me.
Okay, I'm sorry that my doctor called and I forgot to tell you what was going on. Okay, I'm back.
Okay. I was just about to lead us in prayer.
Okay.
May the Lord be with you.
And
Also with you.
Lord, please help us today. Please guide us in our study of a book a lot of us are unfamiliar with. Please help us learn from your word, keep our minds open to what you have to teach us and what we have to teach each other. Lord, we pray for you to ease Daisy and her toothache and to give the dentist guidance and calmness all around the situation. We raise up Ray and his stay in the hospital since Father's Day. We're praying for your guidance and for resolution of his heart issues or whatever other issues he may be having. Lord, we join many people who've walked by that window and seen the sign for Hunter, who's in the children's hospital. Please give his family peace, which surpasses understanding. and let them know that many people they don't even know are raising up their child in his time of need. We ask you to please protect Lydia and her family, and for them to have answers and a clear path to health during her surgery tomorrow. We pray for safe travels for Pam and Ed when they go to visit her. We continue to pray for Chris Whitehead as she recovers from COVID. Please ease her way in the ER, provide the care she needs. We pray for Brian and his family from Brendan's work as they enter a period of isolation and concern and sickness. We hope that all passes very quickly and they have no lingering symptoms. We also pray for Mary George and her family and the whole Grace community as we remember her husband this weekend. In your name we pray.
Amen.
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 Nice job, Charity. Nice
Yeah.
job. Very calm, very peaceful. Nice job. Thank you. Thank
Alright.
you.
I'm sorry I was gone, but my former priest has some kind of big issue with bleeding and abdominal bleeding. And they're also our best friends. His name is Bob McFarland. And if you don't have to go back and pray for him right now, but if people would add them to your prayer list, I'd appreciate it.
Absolutely. And I sincerely apologize. I need to get her, the dentist is squeezing us in and I can't be late. So I pray for Carol as she's left here alone. But we were on the book at Tobit. Would somebody volunteer just to sort of be our facilitator as we continue to read?
Let's let Brendan do it since he's the one that suggested.
Brendan, would you be up for just facilitating the rest of the conversation?
I would love to, but I have to leave at 11 actually, because I have a work meeting.
Sure.
David, can we tap you again, as we often do, for your educational background and general loveliness?
Sure. That's something that's rarely been said about me. But anyway, yeah, we'll do what we can.
I will
Yeah.
speak of your loveliness often. So, all right, I apologize. I'm so
No
sorry.
problem.
Hope she's feeling better.
Bye, Charity. Be well.
He's the life of a mother.
I know. Here and there.
We all know
David.
how it is.
Okay, all right, thank you, everybody.
Bye.
So does anybody remember where we were at?
Chapter
Where we
2.
left off? Chapter 2?
Yeah.
You know, I haven't been here for a while. What chapter are we on in?
Chapter 2
Of which
Of-
book?
Of Tobit.
of Tobit.
Oh,
It's in-
Oh.
If that,
Do you have a,
I'll bet
do you
you,
have
I'll
a-
bet you didn't expect that, Ann. Yeah.
no.
Surprise.
Is
Do you have a
Tobit,
Bible?
is Tobit in everyone's Bible?
No.
It's if you can get it online, but
Okay,
it's
I
in
can
the Apocrypha.
What Bible do you have, Ann?
I can do it.
What-
I can do a split screen and I can Google it.
What Bible do you
common-
have?
Well, I have several. This one is the Common English Bible, but I think they're all the same format.
Anything that has the Apocrypha in it, it will be in there.
Okay, all
Most,
right. You know what I'll do? I'll Google it and pull it up and I'll split my screen. That's okay.
And
okay.
Yes.
where did you find the Apocrypha for EFM?
Well, remember, I didn't come last week because my husband was in the hospital, so I never read it.
Okay.
But did you find it somewhere to
I
read it
will.
later?
I will. You carry on and I'll find it.
Hey, Brendan, would you like to read, since you're only going to be here till 11, would you like to start us off by reading through chapter 2?
I would be
Can I-
happy to.
Can I ask, can we review what chapter 1 was again? That's where he was going around burying all the dead people in the street, right?
Right.
Hello?
Yeah,
Is that right? That's, he was going around burying,
Yes.
he was getting in trouble for doing that?
Okay, I've got it.
Okay, all right. Onward, Brendan.
Okay. I'm reading from the NSRV, or NRSV, excuse me, NRSV. In the days of Esarhaddon, I returned home, and my wife Anna and my son Tobias were restored to me. At the festival of Pentecost, which is sacred festival of weeks, a good dinner was prepared for me, and I reclined to eat. When the table had been set for me and an abundance of food placed before me, I said to my son Tobias, "Go, my son, and bring whatever poor person you may find of our kindred among the exiles in Nineveh, who is wholeheartedly mindful of God, and he shall eat together with me. I will wait for you, my son, until you come back." So Tobias went to look for some poor person of our kindred. When he had returned, he said, "Father," and I replied, "Here I am, my son." Then he went on to say, "Look, father, one of our own nation has been killed and thrown into the marketplace, and now he lies there strangled." Then I sprang up, left the dinner before even tasting it, and removed him from the square and laid him in one of the outbuildings at my home until sunset, when I might bury him. When I returned, I washed myself and ate my food in sorrow. Then I remembered the prophecy of Amos, how he said against Bethel, "Your festivals shall be turned into mourning, and all your songs into lamentation." And I wept. When the sun had set, I went and dug a grave and buried him. And my neighbors laughed and said, "Is he still not afraid? He has already been hunted down to be put to death for doing this, and he ran away. Yet here he is again burying the dead." That same night, I washed myself and went into my courtyard and lay down by the wall of the courtyard. My face was uncovered because of the heat. I did not know that there were sparrows on the wall. Their fresh droppings fell into my eyes and produced white films. I went to physicians to be healed, but the more they treated me with ointments, the more my vision was obscured by white films until I became completely blind. For 4 years, I remained unable to see. All my kindred were sorry for me, and Ahikar took care of me for 2 years before he went to Elimaeus. There we go. At that time, my wife Anna earned money at women's work. She used to send what she made to the owners, and they would pay wages to her. One day, the 7th day of Dystrus, when she cut off a piece she had woven and sent it to the owners, they paid her full wages and also gave her a young goat for a meal. When it came toward me, the goat began to bleat. So I called her and said, "Where did you get this goat? It is surely not stolen, is it? Return it to the owners, for we have no right to eat anything stolen." But she said to me, "It was a gift given to me. It was given to me as a gift in addition to my wages." But I did not believe her and told her to return it to the owners. I became flushed with anger against her over this. Then she replied to me, "Where are your acts of charity? Where are your righteous deeds? These things are known about you."
Okay.
Carol,
Yes?
would you mind shutting the door to the meeting room there? Because we're getting a lot of feedback.
Really, there's nobody out there, but I
Well,
will.
Thank you so much. Just a little bit. Thank you.
Sure. I should have closed it. Well. No.
One thing I
So,
thought,
go ahead, Leslie.
then one thing I thought about was that when he buried them, he had to wait till after sunset. Was that something in the law?
I think it's because he was getting into trouble for burying these people.
Right, yeah.
It was doing it in secret.
It wouldn't have been a problem unless it was was Shabbat, the Sabbath. Yeah, he wouldn't have had to wait. But I think, as far as the Jewish law went, I think maybe Carol's right. He was trying to do it a little bit undercover because it got him in trouble before, and it gets him in trouble again, but in a different way. This is almost comical what happens. There's a kind of, as I was looking a little bit, there's kind of a trend of humor that runs throughout Tobit. And it's kind of funny that this guy does a good deed, and because of it, he has to stay outside, because if a Jew touches a dead body, they're ritually unclean for a certain time. It doesn't explain why he was able to eat inside. And it does say he went through a bath, which was probably a purification. But anyway, he's outside and these birds poop on him.
In his eyes. So he
And it
becomes
makes him blind. And like a lot of people's experience with the medical profession, especially earlier on when they didn't actually know too much about having things to cure, the cure was worse than worse than the original blindness. It just made him more blind. And then evidently it made him irritable, because he started questioning whether his wife had went out and had stolen a goat. So, he wasn't able to work or anything. He was dependent on him. And wow, this is just kind of an interesting passage all the way through. It's important that people be buried. That was a very important part of Jewish law, and it indicates he might have been one of the Hebrews that was killed. And although the king didn't want him to touch these people and bury them, because that was part of the punishment, was to consign them to just be consumed by wild animals. That was part of which basically consigned you to the extinction, like I talked about last week. Unless a certain portion of the body is left, you can't expect to be resurrected in any way. Even to go to Sheol, you just were extinct. You became animal poop.
Wow.
So this was a terrible punishment. And he steps in, and as a result of it, in his case, no good deed goes unpunished, and he ends up blind. And as the doctors try to help, he gets more blind. And then he gets in a big fight with his wife because he thinks she's stolen a goat. So things aren't looking too good for Tobit right now, in spite of his acts of charity. I don't know what anybody else saw in there, but
they would put him to death. They'd put Tobit to death for burying these bodies. Was that what the punishment was?
Well, the king had consigned them to be executed, and part of the punishment was that they be left out to be eaten by animals. Right. And he went against the king's law, so probably, yes, he probably was subject. He did it more than one time, was warned, and the king probably had enough and threatened to have him killed. So, yeah. But instead, he's just blinded. And for a person at that time, a man, living off the wages of his wife, that was kind of shameful.
Yeah.
That was very shameful. And maybe that's why he was so irritable, that he thought his wife had to even resort to robbery or something to keep them fed. So he was not having a good week. No, or whatever. Yeah.
But he was brave. He was brave, and he was that was for him to do that. He risked a lot, and he probably knew it, and he went ahead and did it anyway.
Right. And that part of what he did was exemplary. That's a good example. It kind of contrasts what he does with what the rest of the Hebrews at the time were doing, and it sets him up as an example, like Job in a certain way. Yeah, you're right. I agree with you, Mary.
It reminds me a lot of Daniel too.
Yeah. Yep. Very similar, very parallel.
It doesn't say a whole lot, I don't think, though, for his relationship with his wife, if he doesn't believe her that this was part of that goat was part of her wages, and then he's ashamed of her.
Yeah,
go ahead.
I was just going to say, yeah, I think it's that sort of stood out to me too, that so far what we've read, he's really talking up what a good person he is and all the good things that he's done. And then he's just a jerk to his wife. Doesn't believe her. It's like all kinds of outward good deeds, but at home, he's not, at least so far.
Yeah, I think it speaks a lot to the role of women in that culture, that they're not considered, they're not given high regard, they're not, considered very well. And I think that's an important insight, that the way he treats his wife, although he's being portrayed as a paragon or an example, yet he still mistreats his wife. So that speaks a lot to what's going on in the culture at that time, I think, Lauren.
Did I, maybe sorry, Lauren.
No, go ahead.
Mistake. Did I hear the word narcissist be used at the beginning when we started to talk about all this, or no? No? Okay, I don't know why I thought that word was used to describe him, but I could be wrong.
It could have been last week.
Oh, that could be Leslie. Yes. All right,
Maybe-
I'm sorry, Lauren, go ahead.
I was just gonna say that she talks back to him. I'm glad that she wasn't silent.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So are you saying that, you said that the act of burying the dead was considered, made you unclean, and so you couldn't enter somewhere that you're impure? Did that mean that he couldn't even go inside his house? He had to sit out by the wall?
That's an interesting question, because that's one thing that the commentators aren't quite sure about, because he did go back, he did take a bath, it says, and that might have been a ritual cleansing, but he did go inside the house and eat,
Yeah.
but then he slept outside. So it's a
Who-
little bit of a conundrum. Yes, for a Jew, if you touch the dead, you are ritually unclean. You need to have purification, and you're unclean for a period of time. I think it's like 24 hours at least. Even after the purification ritual, you weren't supposed to. Well, the temple wasn't an issue then for him, because of course he couldn't go into the temple. That they were in exile. But anyway, so yeah.
But
So if somebody died, I mean, I'm sure there were other instances of this. They had to go through all of this. If, say,
Yes,
a wife and a husband died, they would have to do this.
yes, they
Who
would.
would bury them? I mean, these people were not supposed to be buried. Okay, I get that. But not every Jew was supposed to be left out for the dogs to eat. Who would bury them? Or was it somebody that wasn't Jewish?
No, they would bury them. They would bury them, but that meant after they touched a dead body, part of the process of burying is usually it was taken care of by the family.
Oh.
They didn't have, and they would be ritually unclean for a certain period of time because of that. They would have to go through a cleansing ritual in a certain period of time before they could go to the temple. And but since it was only him and it wasn't the rest of his family, yeah, it's a complicated issue, because the way the story is told, that he went in and ate, but he didn't stay in the house. So yeah, so it's the details are kind of strange.
Well, the only other thing I was thinking, maybe, he slept with his wife or something in the same bed, and he couldn't be near her to do that. Even though she could eat, he couldn't. And we don't know how many beds they had, how many bedrooms, but
Sleep on the couch.
slept on the couch, but I don't know what. But he slept outside. It was hot, so he probably went outside to get in where it was not so warm, because some of those houses could be probably
Pick a
pretty
good
warm.
spot though. Okay.
No air conditioning.
Who had that back then?
I think it's setting up. It's setting, the whole blindness is setting up the rest of the account. You'll see how that all plays in later. But yeah. Does anybody else have anything of great significance or small significance that they noticed about this chapter that they'd like to talk about right now? If not, maybe we could go on to chapter 3 then. Surprise Charity and get Greg and go through more than one chapter. Who would like to volunteer to read chapter 3?
I will.
Okay, Mary, please do.
I was grieved and wept and prayed in sorrow, saying, O Lord, you are righteous in all your works, and all your ways are mercy and truth, and you judge true and righteous judgment forever. Remember me and look at me. Don't take vengeance on me for my sins and my ignorances and the sins of my fathers who sinned before you, for they disobeyed your commandments. You gave us as plunder for captivity, for death, and for a proverb of reproach to all the nations among whom we are dispersed. Now your judgments are many and true, that you should deal with me according to my sins and the sins of my father, because we didn't keep your commandments, for we didn't walk in truth before you. Now deal with me according to that which is pleasing in your sight. Command my spirit to be taken from me, that I may be released and become earth. For it is more profitable for me to die rather than to live, because I have heard false reproaches, and there is much sorrow in me. Command that I be released from my distress now and go to the everlasting place. Don't turn your face away from me. The same day it happened to Sarah, the daughter of Raguel in Ecbatana of Media, that she also was reproached by her father's maidservants, because that she had been given to 7 husbands, and Asmodeus, the evil spirit, killed them before they had lain with her. And they said to her, do you not know that you strangle your husbands? You have had already 7 husbands, and you haven't borne the name of any one of them. Why do you scourge us? If they are dead, go your ways with them. Let us never see either son or daughter from you. When she heard these things, she was grieved exceedingly, so that she thought about hanging herself. Then she said, I am the only daughter of my father. If I do this, it will be a reproach to him, and I will bring down his old age with sorrow to the grave. Then she prayed by the window and said, Blessed are you, O Lord my God, and blessed is your holy and honorable name forever. Let all your works praise you forever. And now, Lord, I have set my eyes and my face toward you. Command that I be released from the earth, that I no longer hear reproach. You know, Lord, that I am pure from all sin with man, and that I never polluted my name or the name of my father in the land of my captivity. I am only daughter, the only daughter. I'm sorry, I'm looking at sheets of paper. The only daughter of my father, and he has no child that will be his heir, nor brother near him, nor son belonging to him, that I should keep myself for a wife to him. 7 husbands of mine are dead already. Why should I live? If it doesn't please you to kill me, command some regard to be had of me, and pity taken of me, and that I hear no more reproach. The prayer of both was heard before the glory of the great God. Raphael also was sent to heal them both, to scale away the white films from Tobit's eyes, and to give Sarah, the daughter of Raguel, for a wife to Tobias, the son of Tobit, and to bind Asmodeus, the evil spirit, because it belonged to Tobias that he should inherit her. At that very time, Tobit returned and entered into his house, and Sarah, the daughter of Raguel, came down from her upper chamber. Wow.
Gee, I wonder why this never made it into all the canon. You know?
Yeah.
There's a
So-
lot here. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry. We should have probably divided it.
Yeah,
But-
yeah. I didn't look far enough ahead to see that.
That's
Yeah.
okay.
So I guess I'm a little bit confused about the transition to Sarah's story. It's just sort of a
was
parallel story that she lives nearby and is having a similar moment of despair, I
I
guess.
thought that too, until at the very end when it said that she got married to Tobias, Tobit's son. So I thought, okay, that's why they brought her in, because after all these other 7 people, she married Tobias. Right? Am I right? Is that what it said?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, these kind of dovetail. She's a distant relative. and
Another
Tobias,
relative.
Yeah.
yeah, Yeah.
So,
well, you
So-
know,
the beginning of chapter 3, was this Tobit praying to God to forgive him for whatever
Yeah.
he's doing? That was him, right?
Yes.
there's a parallel here between Tobit and Job, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tobit was also a righteous man, and he's being punished for sins. And he doesn't claim he's sinless, like kind of like Job did, but he also claims that what he's going through, and it's also symbolic of what the Jews in exile felt. They were going through this time of exile because of the sins of their fathers. It's not something that they necessarily personally did, but the fact that this judgment was brought about on their fathers, and they're the victims of it as well. And so he's acknowledging that he does have personal sins, but he's tried to live a righteous life. And then it goes on to Sarah's, who's also in a parallel way. She hasn't done anything sinful to deserve what's happened, but this demon Asmodeus has a thing for her. And every time she gets married, he kills her husband because he doesn't want her husband to have relations with her. Yeah. So
How does
So then-
Tobias get away with it?
well, we're going to find that out later.
Okay.
I've read ahead, but it's really interesting how but Raphael, the archangel, is going to help him. Raphael is going to come and heal Tobit's blindness, and he's also going to protect Tobias, who is Tobit's son. That's what's going on here. The way they do it is pretty amazing. The way Raphael does it, we're going to see it's not what you would probably expect. We can see that later on, but there is a parallel, I think, between Sarah and Tobit here, that they're showing that kind of a contrast between them and their suffering and the fact that the Jewish people as a whole were being punished and sent into exile by God because of the sins they had committed against God by their idolatry and their lack of hospitality and care for one another. So there's kind of a contrast and because of that, God recognizes the fact that what has been done to them has not been fair. And so he's sending Raphael, not one of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but a different Raphael.
Yeah.
To come,
But in verse 14, I'm sorry, go ahead. What were you
no,
going to
you
say?
go ahead, please.
Well, in verse 14, she says, "You know, Lord, that I am pure from all sin with man, and that I never polluted my name or the name of my father in the land of captivity." I thought she was being, saying that they were saying that she, that she sinned and did all this. What is that about?
Well, that's a common belief at that time, Mary, that if bad things happen, it's because you sinned. That was the same thing that Job's friends, Tobit's neighbors, they said, this happened to you because you did something wrong. You sinned, and this is a judgment from God. And that was a common belief back then, that when evil things happened, it was because of something you did, that things didn't just happen, that everything happened was providential and God was behind it all. And when bad things happened, it was because you sinned and you needed to confess your sin, and then maybe God will relent and take the
But she
punishment away.
she says, "I never polluted my name in the name of my father and land of captivity." Isn't that, I mean, she's from that culture and she's been accused of this stuff, and she has are you saying that she has no right to say that she didn't do what
No.
everybody says she
No,
did?
I'm saying she said the same thing that Job did when he was accused of having sinned. To his friends, he says, "No, I have not. I'm not worthy of this punishment. What you believe is not true. Just because something bad happens to you doesn't mean that you've sinned. that's not a true belief. In fact, in Job, God basically at the end of the much discussion comes down on Job's side and tells his friends, no, be quiet. Job's right. He hasn't sinned. This isn't punishment. You don't understand that I have my own reason, that things happen for other reasons than that. And this is the same thing. This is being set up in a different way, that, a different, similar circumstance, that she didn't sin. This is not God's judgment. This is something that happened for other reasons.
Well, can you imagine, whether it be in biblical times or today, if somebody was married 7 times and all 7 of their husbands died, and she's claiming it was some evil spirit that killed them? People are gonna start to go, oh, right, okay, lady, I don't believe
well,
a word you're saying.
Some of the people on court TV would have a heyday with that.
No kidding, no kidding. So, I mean, I'm sure that, this probably was true, but people being people, they're not gonna believe her. But
Nope.
what I'm wondering is, when she says she didn't pollute her name, is she just saying that their marriages were never consummated either? Or was she just meaning that she didn't sin? She didn't kill them?
Well, I think it's clear that she's saying, at least in part, her marriages weren't consummated, but she's also saying there was nothing that I did previous to being married that yeah, this is a really interesting cultural viewpoint. This viewpoint is not entirely uncommon today either.
Really?
I was
Well,
thinking,
look, go ahead, please.
oh, I'm sorry. I was thinking that she was taking a big risk, because this is a novel concept. Up until this point, the only time bad things happen is because you did something wrong. So for her to have the courage and to stand up that, no, I didn't do anything wrong. I
She
think,
was brave too, as her husband was.
so that I think like maybe that thought process is starting to, they would think about it a little more, that sometimes just bad things happen, just keep the faith and things will turn around.
But you're right, Anne, and I think this is one of the things that Tobit and Job was trying to point out, that this way of thinking is not good. But the only way that these people were justified in the eyes of the neighbors and other people around them was the fact that these conditions were removed and taken away, and that showed that God blessed them, so that justified their claim that they had not sinned.
Yeah.
And I was going to say, today we're not so far from that belief by a lot of people now. We have a lot of people.
Yeah.
We have a lot of people now that would like to say, if you're poor, it's because you don't work hard enough, or you don't try hard enough. And if you're sick, there are some theologies even that go so far as say that if you're sick still, it's because you make a bad confession, you admit your sickness, or you sinned or did something evil. This is not something that our culture is entirely free from. We still like to blame, we still like the victim blame. And I think
what a great analogy that you brought up about people thinking that if you're poor, you just didn't work hard enough. That's a great example of that mindset.
So I don't know, did anybody else see anything here in this particular chapter that they would like to go ahead and, in spite of the fact that, Tobit's having a big pity party to begin with, but still, it seems kind of justified when you fact, that he doesn't feel that it's just what's happening. He was trying to do what he thought was righteous and right, and the result of it is he's blinded, and all his friends blame him because of that. And this poor woman, same thing with her. She's done nothing wrong, and yet this demon gets the hots for her and is killing all her husbands. The thing is, of course, this might be just a little bit of hyperbole. I think they're trying to really make the case. They're trying to set up a situation where 7 husbands. So anyway, but anybody else have anything that that they saw in this particular chapter that spoke to them?
Well, I was thinking that the current political situation, people are being, accused of all kinds of things, and trying to stand up to it. And I, so I think that my respect for the wife is related to some of the things that I'm thinking about what's going on now. And so it helps me to see a kind of parallel and how terrible it is. I don't know, maybe they were used to being accused of things that they really didn't do. And maybe women didn't stand up, and maybe people did not stand up to, the culture. But in this story, it's very interesting to see how the courage to stand up and speak when you've been wronged is featured in this story here.
Yeah.
I think it's
This-
interesting that we hit that number 7 again. It's just one of those numbers that repeats over and over again.
Yeah. I agree. I think numbers have symbolic meaning, Susan. I think you're right. One of the weird things about this particular passage, of course, is the fact of a demon lusting for an earthly woman. That's weird, but it's not without precedent in other literature among the Jews. For example, their understanding of demons and how they came about is kind of interesting. If you look, there's a passage in the Old Testament that talks about the sons of men or the daughters of men and the sons of the angels interbreeding, and it caused a problem. Well, there was a belief among the Hebrews at that time that this is where demons originated. They didn't believe that demons were angels that rebelled against God. In fact, it talks about in First Enoch, that I think we'll get to. It talks about the fact that these angels fell in love, or whatever, however you want to refer to it, with women. They got together and they had children, and these children were the demons. And these demons were really miserable creatures, because they constantly hungered. They constantly had desire. And yet, because they were partly spiritual, they couldn't feed, they couldn't eat and relieve their hunger. They just constantly were hunger and mad and angry. And they were this unintended hybrid that had a really miserable existence. And so this physical attraction between angels and humans has is in other places as well. In fact, if you look in the New Testament, their understanding of demons was different than ours is. Their understanding of demons were these creatures that were part human and part spiritual and angelic, and that they went about and they were really mad and really angry. And one of the definitive ways you could tell if someone was demon possessed was if they were still partaking of food. Because if they ate, that meant they were no longer demon possessed. Now, if you think about some of Jesus' healings, you begin to see how this is part of the story. When Jesus resurrected the little girl that had died, Tabitha or Talitha, what was the first thing after she was resurrected that he told them to do? He told them to go get her something to eat, to feed her, because that would assure her parents and the community around her that she was not just some resurrected demon, but she was actually Talitha, and she wasn't demon possessed. And think about the time when Jesus appeared to his disciples after his resurrection. They were out there in the fishing boat. They came in, he had the food ready, and he sat there, and they were scared. And then he ate with them, and they were no longer fearful. So that's just an interesting sidelight to what some of the views of that time and during New Testament times about demons, which are quite different than some of the views that we have that have been affected by Dante's Inferno and some of the other Western literature that came out of. So after that excursion into absolutely nothing except just the subject of interest, is there anything else anyone else is interested in about talking about this chapter 3?
Well, oh, sorry.
No, Lauren, you
I'm-
and me, no.
I was gonna take us far away, so Pam, you should go.
Okay, so I looked up the number 7 again, because I'm always interested on these certain numbers that keep on coming up. And so this, which really makes sense to me now, it says, the first use of the number 7 in the Bible relates to the creation. God spent 6 days creating the heavens and the earth and then rests on the 7th day. This is our template for the 7-day week observed around the world to this day. The 7th day was to be set apart for Israel. The Sabbath was a holy day of rest. Thus, right at the start of the Bible, the number 7 is identified with something being finished or completed. I just thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting, Pam, the way numbers are used over and over again in the Bible symbolically. I think
Yes.
of course, I'm not sure how that applies to having 7 husbands killed by a demon, but still.
Oh, it does. Yeah, that I can't. Maybe Lauren's gonna talk. Thank you.
Yeah,
Would you
Lauren,
talk
you
about
can't leave
that?
us. You can't
Come
leave
on,
us
Lauren.
hanging. You have to let us know what we're thinking
You
about.
got this, girl.
Oh, I'm just wondering about the Episcopal Church or people in this room and the concept of demons as a real force. I'm just wondering. I just Googled what the Episcopal, to see if there's anything about the Episcopal Church, and they have something about exorcisms and that exorcisms could still be performed, which to me implies that the Episcopal Church believes that demons are actual beings and not just a concept of evil. So I just was curious what you all thought.
I think that's partly a derivation from their Catholic origins, that they still hold on to a concept of demonology, and even though it's different than the Jewish one, that they still perform exorcisms and things. I think, that's an interesting idea. Probably from your background, coming from a charismatic Pentecostal background, there probably was some mention of demons and their impact on the world. I would imagine you may not feel comfortable sharing all that, but I would imagine that's very much part of your background.
My mom taught me when I was a kid that if I felt a presence of a demon, that I should say the name of Jesus, like flee from me in the name of Jesus, and then demons would go away. And so most of my childhood, I would like put myself to sleep and say, flee from me in the name of Jesus, because I was just scared that they were there, that they were things that could be nearby.
Someone once gave Chris a book by Frank Peretti and he talks about, he has these kids books where these kids do these inconsequential things and open a thin veil between the spiritual realm and unleash demons. And I told my wife, get that book away from him. That's just, but it's a strong belief. I have friends that believed, they told me one time that they believed that for every rock album, Satan assigns a demon, and when you buy that rock album and let it into your house, you're giving permission for that demon to be in your home. And
Wow.
so
And you could listen to the record backwards. And
it'll say Paul is dead.
would say all different stuff. I don't know. I never heard it.
Well, I've been watching this show on cable TV. It's a series. It's called Evil, and it's about this team of people that it's a psychiatrist and a priest he's in training, and a tech guy, and they go in and they research different claims of demon possession, and it's kind of interesting, but a lot of times I'll figure out that it's something to do with tech or something to do with a psychological break in the person. But in the one of them that I was watching, they claimed that this child was, their mother was a Muslim, and they had a Muslim Aman or whatever they're called come in, and he was doing exorcism. Do you know, Anne, do they do exorcisms in the Muslim faith?
You know, I don't know. I'll have to talk to my husband. I've never heard him mention it.
Yeah,
From my
I don't
point of view,
know.
I don't think I've never really thought about it a lot, to be honest. I actually don't know Lauren, so she doesn't know me. But I grew up Catholic, and I mean, it was like read about, but I don't even remember it being emphasized in school. And so I haven't really thought about it that much. So that means, no, I don't really, I didn't really think it was possible, but I guess I'll have to give it some more thought.
My sister-in-law is, I mean, she and one of her daughters apparently are very sensitive to the presence of angels, and she, you know, that they see them. And I remember in the first house that my brother-in-law and my brother and sister-in-law, that where they lived, they no, it was the second house, but anyway, there was a room that my sister-in-law sensed evil in that room and felt like something happened there that was awful. And the same thing for my my niece. She still has these feelings about certain places, and they don't call them demons, but it's like, I don't know how to respond when I hear these things. I know they're very spiritually sensitive. They belong to the Lutheran Church, and I think they see it as some kind of gift. But the fact that this room they kept talking about was somehow a place where something bad happened. I mean, I see this as sort of a present day similarity to what we're talking about. And I've never been able to grasp it because I don't see these kind of things. So I can identify with the strangeness of this, I guess.
Hmm. I don't know.
I think there's evil in this world. And I think
Mhm.
there's evil that works its way in people's lives. I think there is evil that is in systems, in organizations, governments, businesses. And I think this systemic evil and these evils that are there, I think this is a way of personifying them to get a handle on them and to understand them. I'm not sure they're actually personalities, but I'm not saying they're not real.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense to me.
Well, I guess it's not weird for somebody, you know, we all have hunches about things, and we don't all, but I mean, really, there are times when you just feel like I have to get away from this person, or this is, you know, I don't know how to handle this. So it's not really the same as thinking of demons, but yeah, I'm sure this is not an uncommon phenomenon among psychics, or, you know, I just guess that, you know, it really bothered me for a while to hear this. And maybe it can't be put in the same category with what we're talking about.
Well, I think the important thing to remember about this whole situation is that one thing the Bible's clear about, and that's these demons are whatever the powers are, however you want to define them. Jesus was master. that they're subject to the love of God. They're subject to the love of one another, that Jesus was able to show his mastery over them, which demonstrates to us that we're not just helpless victims that are going to be taken over. That we don't have to live in fear that our slightest misstep is going to open a demonic realm and we're going to be demon possessed. But the fact
what
is that, yeah.
I was just going to say that that's what she's a person of faith, and that's what she did. Whatever this is, wherever that feeling was coming from, she addressed God to deal with it. And that was perceived as being a solution to it. And she felt that it was. And so, there's a rhythm to this that people of faith can take. And also another thing is that there's a rite in the Episcopal Church and probably in the Catholic Church, when you have a new house, when you move to a new house, there's a liturgy for going from room to room with incense and blessing the house. And, that's a little bit the same. I mean, that belief stays there, that we need to greet new places with a feeling of safety.
I think one of the most interesting parts of this whole situation, that a lot of people who very, very strongly believe in the existence of personal demons and that people can be demon possessed, they reject the whole concept of systemic evil.
Yep.
Go ahead, man.
So I just texted Saki. He's like, nope, don't believe in demons. Don't do exorcism. Nonetheless, poor, uneducated, ignorant villagers are superstitious and have all kinds of remedies for insolvable problems.
Yeah.
But you know what? I mean, obviously that's what he believes, but I don't really think it's a matter of education. I think it's a matter of different type of religious convictions. I think he may be surprised to know that maybe some people do, just like all faiths. Interesting.
Anne, would you do me a favor and read that again, what he said?
Well, that's only his opinion.
I know, but it's Saki. I want to just hear it one more time, please.
He said, nope, don't believe in demons, don't do exorcism. Nonetheless, poor, uneducated, ignorant villagers are superstitious and do have all kinds of remedies for insolvable problems.
Okay.
But that's just his opinion. So,
well, I think that liturgy from the Episcopal, now that I think about it, it's more of it doesn't say casting out demons, but I think it's more of a blessing on each room, that good things will happen there. It's not quite what we're talking about.
You're sort of inviting the Holy Spirit there.
I think that Catholic priests will exorcise your house if you think your house is possessed. I think that is something they do.
And Carol, and the thing is, regardless of whether there's actual demons or not, sometimes if exorcisms are performed like that, it gives people comfort that have a belief that way. But like I say, this contrast between the belief in personal demons and the non-belief in any kind of systemic evil that could be, part of that just seems such a strange contradiction to me. The fact that there's no such thing as systemic evil, it's only all about the individual and what their individual beliefs, that you don't need to change organizations and the things that they're talking. So
well, even when I think about what Lauren said, I just thought, well, isn't that a beautiful thing? That even, I mean, I'm sure, you could carry it on to when you're an adult, that if you just focus on Jesus is with you, that in times of anxiety, that it calms you. And I mean, there's something beautiful about that.
Yes, there is. But the setup for that.
And no, that's a very positive way of looking at it. I think when I think back on it now, I think of how fear-based my family's religious belief was growing up. I think it could be flipped in the way that you've said, where if I can think about spending time with Jesus, or Jesus as someone to call on. I like that.
unfortunately, it was used as a lifesaver, and I experienced some similar things from my parents as well, not specifically relating to demons, but stuff like that. But God would judge you if you sinned, and God would strike you dead or whatever. And I lived in terror for a long time. And it's okay, to pray to God for protection, but to do that as a life preserver rather than to do it as a whole way of life, that God's there and living out demonstrating his love through the world around us is a different way to look at things, I guess. Does anybody else have anything they'd like to say before we say goodbye and go our own separate ways?
Well, I
From this-
did Google Muslims and exorcism, and it said that, they call their evil spirits jinn, the jinn, like that's where the word genie comes from. But it says that some Muslims believe in such a concept of exorcism. However, Islam as a whole does not support it.
Oh, there is a difference between Islam and Muslims, I believe, isn't there, Ann?
No, Islam is the name of the religion and Muslim is the name of the followers. But there's a billion of them, so I'm sure there's a wide variety of belief system.
Well, I would like to say that I just remembered that I guess I feel more God immersing me now, but there was a time that it wasn't just once, when I was overcome with anxiety. And because, I didn't grow up with this thing about demons, I would turn in the midst of my anxiety and, open myself to God and maybe say a Bible verse or something. And I mean, that's something that we can do now, but I recognized it as my anxiety, not something coming from the outside, but that something I could not handle because I was so anxious. And but there was a little feeling there of being oppressed, but being, something that I could not handle. I didn't necessarily personalize it, but by the grace of God, I did like turn around and just pray. And I didn't feel like I had to beg God for help. I just I don't know how I knew to do this, but I just opened myself and maybe sang part of a hymn or something, and it really helped me. And maybe that's what's behind this personalizing something like a demon, and people did not know how to deal with these things. And so I'm not saying they invented it, but I mean, culture wise, maybe they had no other way of defining, what was going on like I did.
Exactly. And then placing yourself in the presence of God, the love of God, the overwhelming grace and peace that he can give. I think that's a good response. Yeah, absolutely. Anybody have anything else before we leave?
No.
Well, we went some interesting places, but Tobit's an interesting book.
Thank you for
Never
facilitating.
heard of it before.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dave.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye. Have a blessed
Bye.
week, everyone.
You
Okay,
also.
too.
We're
Bye.
praying for Lydia.
Yes. Let's see if I can turn this off. I know Lauren out there can do it. Yeah. I think if I go to this little leave button or end at the bottom there, that red end button, it'll end it. Am I right, Lauren? If I do end? Yep. It doesn't like my